Quick introduction. Welcome to this morning's conference call with Director Debi Durham of the Iowa Economic Development Authority and Iowa Finance Authority, hosted by the Clinton Regional Development Corporation. The CRDC is a bi-state nonprofit economic development organization serving the greater Clinton region since 1953. For more information, you can check out our website at clintondevelopment.com. Our guest today is one of the most dynamic and progressive leaders in economic development. Debi Durham was first appointed to lead the IEDA in 2011, and during her 8-year tenure has turned the agency into a 8-year tenure, going on 9-year tenure, has successful public-private partnership, landed billion-dollar economic development projects for Iowa, worked tirelessly on expanding trade and investment opportunities for the state. She prides herself on building coalitions, supporting new ventures, and strengthening the state's industries and communities. Clinton County has taken advantage of many programs spearheaded and supported by Director Durham, one of which is Home Base Iowa, which continues to be one of the most successful in the state here in Clinton County, recruiting over 40 U.S. military veterans, resulting in over $4.6 million in home purchases and an additional $100,000 in annual property tax revenue generated for the county and municipalities. While those numbers alone are impressive, that's over 40 skilled and disciplined veterans entering our workforce and supporting the continued success of our existing businesses. The core grant for the Home Base Iowa program is funded through the Iowa Finance Authority, which Director Durham oversees. Debi also visited us in September of 2019 to launch our new one-of-a-kind Clinton County Community Student Loan Assistance Program. It is a collaboration designed to recruit and retain top talent within the region through the payback of student loan debt. So thank you to Director Durham for joining us this morning. And I now like to turn it over to the CRDC's President and CEO, Erin Cole, to begin the interview. Go ahead, Erin.
Thank you so much, Andy. I want to take just a second to thank Andy Sokolovich, our Vice President of Economic Development, for his technology skills, for putting this together, and for his amazing public speaking voice. So we certainly appreciate that. We are thrilled to have Director Debi Durham on the line with us today. And we're going to start with questions in a couple of minutes. But of course, I did want to give Director Durham the opportunity to start with any maybe brief comments that she might have, and then we could roll into the questions. Director Durham, do you have any brief comments you would like to make?
Well, certainly. Well, first of all, good morning, Erin and Andy, and to all my friends there in Clinton. I so wish we were together. These are extraordinary times, and we're all, learning to navigate this new normal we have right now. So, let me just have some opening comments. We have, as I was thinking yesterday at the governor's press conference, it's kind of extraordinary when you think that IEDA was called upon by the governor to launch a program that never existed for our consumer-facing businesses, our small Main Street businesses that have been so devastated by this proclamation, many of them to shut down. And to do that in a matter of not only to launch a program, but actually in the first round have checks in people's hands within 18 days, it's absolutely extraordinary. And as I answer every one of the emails that comes to me personally and phone calls, you just hear the anxiety in people's voice, and they just need to know that there's a plan moving forward. And then when we're able to tell them that they were successfully awarded a grant, it's just that hope for tomorrow. And we are spreading hope these days. Governor Reynolds has infused more money into the program, I believe, when it's all said and done. And I hope to have it all wrapped up by the 15th of this month, May. That means every award that will be made. And I think at the end, there will probably be in excess of $100 and some million being allocated. So I think it really shows her commitment and her heart for the small businesses of our state, which we all know is the backbone of our economy. So with that, I'm just going to pause, and because I really do want to hear from you, and I want to make sure that I'm answering the questions that, is top of mind for you, Erin. So I will turn it back to you.
Thank you so much, Director Durham. I'm going to call on Mayor Scott Madison of the city of Clinton. I know that Mayor Scott Madison had a question that he would like to share with you.
Very good, Mayor. Good to talk to you.
It's good to talk to you too, Director Durham. First, I just want to say thank you for everything you and your team are doing during this time. Awesome help to a lot of folks throughout the state, and we really appreciate that. I don't have necessarily a direct question. I just want to give you a couple of thank yous for all the work that you do with us in Clinton. working with Timken and Nestle to get those the incentive packages done. All the money that has been directed for the gut rehab and the CDBG and all that stuff. So we really appreciate everything that your office and your team does for Clinton. And we're hoping that by June 1, we'll have 2 gut rehabs done and we can get you and the governor here for ribbon cutting. If not, we'll have to do it virtually, but we hope by then you guys will be able to come see us. So thank you very much.
Well, I tell you, Mayor, if we're able to travel by that time, and I certainly pray that is the case, you can count at least one of us being there, okay? Because we'd very much like to be there and celebrate that great event with you as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Director Durham, we obviously know and certainly are respectful of the fact that the current situation with the coronavirus and the uncertainty for businesses is devastating for a lot of people, certainly on the employment side and then for business owners themselves, whether or not they'll be able to continue. So we do obviously want to thank you and your staff. The other thing that I wanted to mention, though, is we all, as you mentioned in your opening remarks, need to be future focused, need to be, hopeful and look for that silver lining and the light at the end of the tunnel. So I had shared some information with you previously about some of the economic development projects that we're working on. Mayor Madison just mentioned a few of them. So for those people listening, we do want to just share a message of hope in the fact that we are working collectively to make sure that when we do get past this, that we're going to have some real opportunities, including job and workforce development opportunities on the other end.
Yeah, Erin, that is certainly the truth. And let me just say that I can tell you that Clinton is an economic hotspot right now. I mean, not just the 2 projects the mayor referred to that we help provide incentives for, but certainly what you're working with in your pipeline as well. But let me just share with you, in December, I meet personally with the governor. We were trying to do it every 2 weeks. It seems like now I'm talking to her every day. But I shared some information with her back in December, and as I was looking towards 2020, and I said, Governor, I want to share with you my pipeline. And I don't normally do that because, those are projects that we're working. But with the pipeline that I showed her were projects that, I was 90% sure that we would close sometime within the year. Mm-hmm. And my prediction to her was that 2020 would be one of the strongest economic development year we've had since in my tenure, which started back in 2011, which is really saying a lot because we've had some incredible years. And it wasn't just our traded cluster industries, such as our manufacturing and insurance and finance and bio sectors. It was really across the spectrum. I mean, things that were happening on our main streets and in our storefronts, things that were happening within our innovation platform. So, unfortunately, then COVID hit, and that's something none of us ever could even possibly imagine unless it was in some kind of sci-fi movie, right? That this was really going to occur. But what I do is that what I'm so hopeful about, Erin, is that we went into this at a place of incredible strength, and not just on the economic side, but we work in a bipartisan way in our legislature. We are fiscally sound as Iowans. We balance our books. We had healthy reserves. And so though we don't have an unlimited amount of money, we are certainly in a much better position than so many other states. Mm-hmm. And though I can't predict for you, is this a V recovery? Is it a U recovery? Or the newest one they threw out is a W recovery? I don't know. But I think with the amount of liquidity flowing into the marketplace from Washington, which is unheard of, I've never seen it at this speed and this strategically targeted, right? That, and given that position of strength, I really am extremely bullish on Iowa going forward. And it's not going to be immediate, but I do believe that the sooner we can open this economy, I predict that within a year, we will be back stronger than ever.
Thank you very much for that. I do want to give the floor to Dennis Lauber. He is a board member of the Clinton Regional Development Corporation. And Dennis, the floor is yours.
Dennis, hey, I'll talk to you.
Hey, Debbie, thank you for the work on, I want to extend what the mayor said with 2 things. One, thank you for the timing of the support for Timken and for Purina a couple of weeks before the vote of the citizens to build a new senior high school. It added a lot of momentum to the good work that others in the community have done. And the new high school passed with 74.7% yes vote. So thank you, Debbie.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Wow, congratulations.
And then to Scott's point about the gut rehab house, if you look at my picture in my hand, is the loan commitment letter I received today from the lender. We'll have one of those two gut rehab houses sold within the next week. So awesome. And again, thank you for your help, Debbie.
Well, that's all good news. I should talk to you all every day. You certainly have a way of lifting my spirits, I can tell you.
Well, good. We did have a question, Erin, come in from Mark from Iowa State Extension Outreach. And he says, are there any suggestions for those very small businesses, like maybe sole proprietors, one or two, who struggle with applying for the current assistance that's available and maybe potentially fall between the cracks?
Yeah, Mark, that is really a good question, and believe me, my heart feels for those that did fall between the cracks. I mean, the question was why 2 to 25, and it came down to a resource management issue. As you know, again, just with the pool we have of those that are eligible, you're looking at about $120-some million when it's all said and done. When we designed this, though, Mark, we actually did it, again, with a line of sight of what the federal government was doing. We knew that there was going to be an emergency provision set for the sole proprietors to get unemployment, which is not something that's normal. The same thing with contractors, those independent contractors. And so that was woefully expanded. And I know that's really hard for people, but that was done. So even though you're right, they're probably not a candidate for some of the SBA, they are certainly a candidate for that. Now, on the TSB side of the house, which is a different side, the targeted small business, we did open up money, small rounds of funds that are different than the business relief grant fund that we were running. And that did include a lot of proprietors, but of course you have to qualify as a small business. There's been a talk, will there be another round? Well, it won't be another round like this, right? We are talking about, can we do something as we move closer towards that recovery phase of this pandemic? And the one thing that we will look at and I please want to stress, folks, that's an if, right? There's no guarantee this is going to happen, but conversations are occurring. And Mark, we will be very, very sensitive to those that did fall through the cracks. So it's probably not the answer you wanted. That was the reasoning and the rationale why we made the decisions that we made.
Mark says, thank you. And I do have a question myself, Director Durham. So looking at the light at the end of the tunnel, as we focus on our state here in Iowa and just generally the Midwest, do you think we have an opportunity now to recruit those young professionals from some of the larger metros on the East and the West Coast to migrate into Iowa, where they have access to quality health care and they're not parts of millions and millions and millions of competitive individuals who are trying to access the healthcare situation that's available on the East and the West Coast? I mean, I think here in the Midwest, specifically in Iowa, we've had a very good opportunity now to kind of showcase ourselves as being accommodating to young professionals within our community.
Oh, well, first of all, Andy, I agree with you. Just let me pause. Brenton, you need to be quiet. I'm talking to my big labradoodle that thinks he needs to sit on my lap. And so, absolutely, honestly, during this, I guess why I'm so looking forward, because there are so many opportunities that have presented themselves for Iowa. Recruitment of people and talent is certainly one of those. The Midwest has always been a strong value proposition. But now with everything we're seeing and the density and what's happening in those cities, and I pray for them every day that because of the way they are so packed together with just pure density, people are rethinking that proposition. So yes, I think there's an opportunity there. And Andy, there's an opportunity to reclaim some of this manufacturing that we ceded away many years ago, right? On not just on the healthcare front, but even with our supply chain. So yes, we are learning from this. We are seeing gaps in that delivery of not only essential services and industries such as our pharmaceutical that we ceded so much of that away, but I just see great opportunity for Iowa on all fronts. And so you'll see a reactivation of our This Is Iowa campaign, being very strategic on some new markets that we'll be looking at going forward. And so, of course, I would always welcome your ideas and thoughts on that, on how we really do reach out to that population base.
Perfect. Thank you. And as I said in the intro to the show, my family's all back in Pennsylvania, and they are not only jealous, but a little envious of how we've been able to respond to this pandemic here in the Midwest. And they see opportunities already, even as we still try to navigate through the tunnel as we approach what hopefully is the end sooner than later, for sure.
I'm going to interrupt for just a second. This is Erin, and I want to take note of the fact that, Director Durham oversees the Iowa Economic Development Authority, and that includes the international trade arm. And so I saw recently that the International Trade Office under IEDA is going to be offering a really interesting webinar series touching into the foreign offices. So the state of Iowa has overseas representatives in a number of different markets. So Europe, for example, Mexico, China, Southeast Asia. And that office is going to be offering these webinars throughout May. May is World Trade Month. And so I imagine it's probably related to that. But Debbie, I don't know if you want to mention anything about the opportunities that companies are seeing, for export overseas, or eventually just getting back to, basically international trade and the opportunities companies could have there.
Well, certainly, in fact, I was just visiting with Anka, who leads our European office, and, her and her team do a great job, and still a large amount of our at least lead activities when it comes to direct foreign investment comes through that office in particular. And so, we still, again, have a real strong pipeline. Obviously, we even had companies that were planning on visiting, but that's been delayed due to the travel restrictions. But we do keep up with what's not only happening in their country and how they're navigating the COVID, because many of them have been ahead of us on all of this. But we are seeing a renewed interest and investment in the U.S. And so I think that, so once we can begin to open up, and of course also, unfortunately, we were just now beginning to see some really positive signs of the trade agreements that we're finally getting, signed and appropriated. And so, I do believe we'll be able to pick up where we left off once the economy is opened up.
Very good. Thank you. I'd like to call on Maureen Miller. I think Maureen Miller is on the line. She's president of the Clinton Area Chamber of Commerce. Maureen, you have to unmute yourself if you can see on your screen.
Sorry, I always forget that part. Hello, Debbie. Nice to talk to you. I had just typed in a comment saying that I'd like to say thank you on behalf of all of the Clinton County businesses who have received money from the IEDA grant program. It's amazing to me. I've really heard a lot of positive comments from our community members, some who have received grants, some who have not. Obviously, there's some frustration that goes on with that, and I've had my share of that myself. But the positivity, even from businesses who are not planning to open today, is still growing. And I think that we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel piercing through this darkness a little bit. So I'm optimistic.
Well, I am optimistic as well. So here's what I would like you to tell those ones that, assuming that, that they're eligible, and there was about 1,200 applicants. And at the end of the day, we had 1,400 applications come in, close to 1,400, but there were a lot of duplication. Some people were so anxious that they applied more than once. We are catching those. And so I think we're down to about 12,745. There's about 12,000 plus, not 12,000, 1,200 plus that are ineligible. And then there was, Mary, this huge stack of like 4,000 at one time that when we were doing the initial sorting, because it's foreign, remember, we started with $4 million and the governor quickly moved it up to $24 million when we saw demand. That, we had to do triage, and I use the word triage very intentional because that's what this was, that if you were missing anything from your application, or if there were question marks by our review team in compliance, you got put into a different file to deal with on another day. Well, the good news is that we have more money, and so that another day is here. And we are now having our entire accounting team at IFA, because we are one organization in operation at least. We have our accounting team in IFA going through those to take another look at those, and we're starting to move those forward. So they just need to be patient, right? And so that's what really happened. The other way we did our screening is because we did look at financials, and it wasn't a first come, first serve. It was not a lottery system. You know, somebody said we should just given everybody $1,000 and been done with it. Well, I guarantee you that would have been a heck of a lot easier for our team. But I didn't think that was right to the small businesses, because everyone has their own story to tell and everyone has their own level of loss. And so we scored them 1 to 4 based on their loss. All of this is on our website. So if you want to know how we went about our screening process, and we are just now getting through the 4s, which the 4s were those that showed the most need. I just released, I think, 1,100 award notices today. Those will not be on the website until, they've accepted it. And right now we're having to do another screening process. The legislature wants me to ask, and I think rightly so, are you planning to reopen? Because the question is, if you're not planning to reopen, we're not going to give you a grant. This is now money for them to reopen. The second question the legislature wants us to ask is, have you received PPP funding? And so that's taking us time to triage that. It doesn't mean, though, that if you got PPP funding, then we're not going to give you a grant. It just means we have to reevaluate your financials to, again, make sure that we're giving the money to those who need it most that do not have other sources. So it's bogged down the process a bit, but I think those are just new criteria that we need to evaluate. So tell them to be hopeful, because we're going to award as many awards as we can. And my plan is, this is assuming all goes well, that our plan is that we will be finished on May 15th. So I didn't say everybody will have their checks then, but at least we'll have all of our awards done by then. And we'll have finally sent out those that we are going to deny. And so hopefully by May 15th, we'll have this wrapped up. And then my plan is to do an annual report to the legislature about the process, who got funded, who didn't get funded, and why.
Well, that's great news, Debbie. Thank you. And I will share that.
All right. Thank you very much. And now I just want to call on Matt Brooks, City Administrator for the City of Clinton, if Matt's on.
Howdy. How do you read me? Loud and clear?
Loud and clear.
I can hear
Use my
you,
Andy's voice to address Debbie Durham.
Go ahead, sir.
Hi, Debbie. No, I just wanted to give you a shout out. Thanks as well. We this week became official members of Housing 360, which is Steve Gilbert's piece that you guys started in IEDA.
Yeah, that's
so
great news. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. And kind of what Andy and Erin were hitting on too, as far as, I think Iowa sets the standard for social distancing. And so everybody should come and move to Iowa. We have multiple apartment complexes. We have multiple housing developments that are moving right now as we speak, breaking ground, building to put folks to be able to be here, as Maureen likes to say, to live, work, and play in the great city of the region of Eastern Iowa. So, and we submitted, just for the folks that are online here, and this is kind of blows your mind, but we put the Victory Center in for some of that CDBG funds for the meals served, because that was a category that Debbie and her crew had come up with.
Yes.
And it was 639 non-duplicate recipients per day, which is 4,473 meals per week, and almost 18,000 monthly and almost 214 annually. So we submitted that in. We also support Mercy One for all the great efforts they're doing as well. And we understand there's only so much money, but anytime we can get a chance to be with our great and wonderful Debbie Durham, we want to say thank you. We're going to continue pressing and be your lead for Iowa as well. But thank you very much, Debbie.
Well, Matt, first of all, thank you. And that's so very, very kind of you. But yeah, so, everybody, we talk so much about the small business relief grant because obviously just the sheer volume of that. But there are so many other programs that we're doing. Our CDBG department worked, very immediately that Washington gave us approval to take $2.4 million of our existing allocation and then $2.4 million of next year's allocation to use for COVID emergency. And so we did put those applications on there, and they're all on the website as well. I really encourage you to look at them. to kind of, we wanted to see some creativity, but we wanted to deal with food security, with daycare and those kind of things. I think we even did some laptops for, telemedicine. So I'm very, very proud of the work our CDBG team is doing. And the other thing is, we're still business as usual. So I think the plans are, if I'm not mistaken, if it hasn't already, because, there's so many moving parts we have going on. And of course, we're all pretty much remote. We will be opening the new round of applications for workforce housing tax credits for rural communities. So certainly Clinton would qualify. And because I want to be ready on July 1 when we have the beginning of our new fiscal year that we can make those awards. Now, it is competitive now, but that new round is going to be opening as well as we'll be working through the next round. We're going to do 2 rounds this year, Historic Preservation Awards, and hopefully we'll get that application or award system open pretty soon so we can get that money flowing into our economy as well. So thank you, Matt. I appreciate that.
You betcha.
All right, Erin, back to you. We haven't had any additional questions come in. Everybody seems to be a little bit quiet. It's a Friday.
Yes, I'm going to put some people on the spot. So first of all, our wonderful colleague, Angela Reingans, I believe is on the line. Angela is the executive director of the DeWitt Chamber and Development Company. And we work very closely with her on a number of different issues, but of course she always has a little different perspective than we do. So if Angela's on the line, is there anything that you would like to share with us, or do you have any questions for Debbie?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
We can.
I don't actually have any questions. I've been following the governor's press conferences daily, which I skipped for you today, Debbie. But I would like to mirror Marie's thoughts of really thanking you for the diligence that you put forth with the small business grants. DeWitt had a number of businesses who, quite honestly, that was just a turning point for them to know that they had that. And there's a number of them that are still hopeful that that's going to be coming back, or that they'll receive those. But overall, we just really think that Iowa's been very responsive and intentional and thoughtful. And, it's nice to be one of those communities that's reopening. But I think that our businesses are a little scared still, but I think that's okay. I kind of had that conversation with a number of them, and I think that we're all looking at what are we doing right now, but what are our plans moving forward as well? Because I think that new normal is going to be, or that normal is never going to be what it was before. So that's a confusing time.
Yeah, and you are absolutely right. As we begin to reopen, it will look different, and we need to be ready for that. So let me talk to you about, so again, tell your businesses not to give up, that we're still working through those application pools for grants. But the other thing that I really realized is I looked towards the recovery stage of this, and we began to put together plans on what we can do to help. And what became very apparent to me after, seeing these awards come forward, that we really have to have an online presence, regardless of the size of your business, right? And because it's just the world we live in from e-commerce anyway. And so one of the things that we're going to be doing, we have an RFQ out on the streets, or it will be out on the streets because I plan to make an award at the May meeting, is that we're going to be working, looking for a vendor, and I have one in mind, but we'll go through the public process to where we as the state will pay to get this Iowa online presence of our small businesses. And we will pay the fee and the development of that for the first year. It looks like it'll be a 2-year contract, but then the second year we expect the businesses or the communities to pay that share of just, if you will, the membership fee of it. And I'm very, very excited. One of the vendors we're looking at is Shop Where You Live, so you can look at that online. They've done some, first of all, it's a young woman who runs it that we've given an innovation fund to, and you all know that I love supporting our small businesses, even as vendors for the state. So that's something we're going to be working on as we move forward. That's something certainly we've learned during this. And so I've got my Main Street team working on kind of what that should look like. And I've got Liesl, who leads our Empower Rural Iowa, looking at that as well. But the plan would be that we would award a contract in May and that we would get that rolling very, very quickly. We're also going to be launching with our tourism stuff, so pay attention to this, a gift card program that we're going to do with our hospitality industry in particular, like our attractions and stuff that have been hit so hard. And I'm thinking, because it's the same end of the company we're using to doing a big parks launch that we're doing in partnership with DNR as we open up our public parks and their anniversary. So before I forget, Brent, sorry, there goes Brinson. I'm sure my laundry's being delivered. So if you go to www.iowabusinessrecovery.com, I would encourage you to go to that every single day and keep that refreshed on your laptops, because anything that touches business, any new programs that we roll out, or anything that you need to know, news coming from SBA or Workforce Development or Department of Revenue, it is all going to be on this site and on this landing page. So keep it up, keep it refreshed, and that's where we'll be launching. So, Angela, just my final comment to you. So I can't think of the name, but you have a gift shop there that's like one of my favorite gift shops with a little coffee shop. What is the name of that?
You're on mute, Angela.
It's called Meant to Be.
Yes, I
Great
love
place.
it. I love it, love it, love it. I can't wait to come back, and I hope that they're still there, correct? I mean, I hope they're hanging on.
They are hanging on, and they received one of your grants. I think it was like last week. So they were in kind of one of the later rounds. So they're definitely still there, and I'm doing very well.
Oh, good. Well, they just have such a great selection. Every time and in your area, I make a real point to go in there and, spread some commerce around, let's say.
Oh, we love that when you do that, Debbie. So one comment about your efforts as a state to support our smaller retailers and just businesses in general to get online. That Shop Where You Live program, that's something that Maureen and I, as well as the Maquoketa Chamber and the Bellevue Chamber, are looking at right now to partner together for. So I love hearing that the state may be considering that as well, because even partnering, it's a significant consideration for us as a budget line item for our chambers. And knowing that we might be able to overcome that budget issue and be able to offer that to our businesses, very exciting.
Yeah. So like I said, the plan is to have an award at the board meeting, which is, I think, the fourth Friday of this month. I tell you what, I don't even have the time. I don't even know what day it is anymore. They all tend to be a blur, but that's the goal, to assist. So
yeah. Every day is Friday.
Yeah. I so wish that was true.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to take a second, since we're talking about all these small businesses and how they've been applying for assistance or obviously in need of assistance. I know we have a couple of bankers on the line. I believe Steve Clements or maybe Brig Tubbs are on the line. I know both of them were heavily involved in helping our local businesses apply for PPP and other programs. If one of them are willing to speak up and just give us some sense of how that's going and maybe some lessons learned in the process.
Sure. This is Brig Tubbs. I think the process has gone fairly well, and as you alluded to, both our bank and I know Steve's bank and all of our community banks here locally, I think have been very aggressive in working with the program and trying to assist our small businesses. And I think for the most part, the program has been very successful. I would say the area or maybe the industry that I am most concerned about are locally owned small restaurants and hospitality businesses. They continue to struggle. Many of them, some of them are open for carryout, but many of them are not opened at all. And even though they're been successful in receiving those PPP funds, they are having difficulty calling back their employees and their teams because the unemployment benefits that they're getting are greater than if they return to work. And so I continue to really be concerned for our local restaurants and hospitality businesses.
Yeah, well, certainly, first of all, let me thank you and the entire financial community and particularly our community bankers. I am just marveled at the way that you were able to get this money out so quickly. And let me give you a perspective. I was talking to my good friend Jane Armstrong, who leads the regional SBA for Iowa. And she told me that in 2 weeks, this is a national statistic, so 2 weeks of the PPP, they did more loans as an SBA than they did the prior 14 years. Now, put that in perspective. That is unbelievable. And I know we had breakdown at the first round. We haven't obviously seen the second round. That I think Iowa did extremely well. $4.3 billion circulating in our economy is, again, extraordinary. So thank you to the bankers. I mean, all of you just really understanding that sense of urgency that Brinson, the sense of urgency that your members are feeling. And I agree with you on the restaurants. That's why I did take some, the discretion I used, even though we never changed our screening process for the integrity of the process, I did give preference. The first ones out the door were those restaurants and bars that were scored highest, that needed the most help, because I fully understand that the PPP, the way it is drafted, many of them, though they may be eligible and use it, the forgiveness portion of it's going to be difficult for them. So we certainly understood that. I don't know if we can get any waivers on that on the backside, but certainly something we're talking with our elected officials on. The unemployment situation is really, the extra $600 per week. Obviously there's been a lot of criticism about that, because you do have, in certain cases, people making more than they did prior to going on unemployment. And the way I understand that happened, and I think this is, a lesson learned for all of us, that because of the antiquation of so many state governments' distribution of how they do unemployment, there was not a sophisticated way in any kind of timely manner of making people simply whole, right? Which was the intention. So that is an unintended consequence that is going to create problems for all of us on the backside that we will have to navigate. So again, lesson learned that we need to be investing in the IT part of our state government and bringing us up to today's standards, so that, we're able to respond more appropriately when these things happen. So all very, very good comments. Thank you. And again, thank you for what you did.
Well, appreciate that. And I'm not, I compliment all community banks, because community banks are really the ones out there making it happen almost overnight. And yeah. I think probably the other local banks, Steve Clements Bank too, probably have seen some opportunities to serve those business owners that may have banked with larger regional banks that were simply slow on the uptake. And community banks are the ones who were able to implement this program very quickly and to the benefit of our local businesses.
Without a doubt. My hat's off to you. I thought it was just extraordinary, your efforts.
Very good. Debbie, is there anything that you wanted to mention to us that we haven't covered yet?
Well, I mean, as far as, I don't think so. Well, I guess, no, that's not true. There's a couple of things I need from you. One is this Test Iowa. Encourage everyone to do the assessment. As our testing goes up, our numbers go up. Of course, that's to be expected. It's a law of probability. But the more data we have that we can synthesize to open the economy, the better. So do the assessment. I took it. It's very, very simple. Luckily, I didn't need any further action, but it's nice to the sense that if something changes in your circumstances, like you're exposed to someone, you start having symptoms, go on it again. And of course, then it will give you a barcode so that you can go get tested. So certainly that's one. The second thing is, and I thank all of you that participated in our survey early on, as I took, the lead from Governor Reynolds, that we were going to make our recovery and responding programs all based on data. Thank you for joining us in partnership with the University of Northern Iowa Institute for Decision Making to get that surveying done. It's an incredible body of work. The executive summary is on also that business recovery page that I told you about. If you want it more drilled down for your region, Erin, Drew's happy to do that for you, but we are going to be going back in the field sometime next week. And I know some of your businesses may be survey weary, and I apologize, but let me just tell you this. The only survey that we're using in the governor's office to determine response and recovery is the one we're doing. So I really would encourage you and ask you once again to assist us in that distribution. So those are the two things that are coming that I would ask your assistance of.
Great, thank you so much. And we have been in touch with Drew, and Andy Sokolovich is working right now on looking at the data that we have received for Clinton County. We'll be sharing that out shortly. The CRDC did also put out a survey in the last month or so. We have some data from that. So definitely support the fact that as we make decisions moving forward, that we have data, we have real facts to base some things off of. Maybe the last thing I would share with you is, I don't know if anyone from Eastern Iowa Community College or Clinton Community College are on right now. Brian Kelly is the new president of Clinton Community College. He just joined us on February 1st, and then unfortunately, fell into this situation with the rest of us. Brian and I have been working closely, and Andy has been working closely with a number of staff, both from Eastern Iowa Community College and Clinton Community College in particular. And we're focused on workforce development. So we hope to have some really good news in about the middle of May, where we're going to be launching a new manufacturing awareness program. So basically, this is to help those people who might be displaced, potentially from other jobs, maybe from the retail or restaurant or service sector. But the point here is that Clinton is very strong. Our region is very strong with manufacturing, and they still have vacancies in manufacturing. And so if people find themselves long-term unemployed, if they were working somewhere previously and they can't go back there, we have hope, and that is that the manufacturing sector is alive and well, and we're going to try to help people get the training and understanding they need of the manufacturing sector so that we can help place them there.
That's great to hear. And of course, as I talked when I was there with you last, that, we're still, even though we have stayed any work right now on Manufacturing 4.0 for obvious reasons, we do plan to pick that up very quickly once the economy starts opening, and therefore we can, really showcase also, just like you're doing, what great career opportunities await people in manufacturing. Because Manufacturing 4.0, I say, is more like these are tech floors that happen to be manufacturing products. It's really pretty amazing. So that's really good to hear, Erin.
So, Erin, right before you close, I do have one last question. We received via text message. Somebody asked, how's former Governor Branstad doing? Did you hear from him at all, and how is he feeling these days?
Well, I can only imagine. Honestly, I have not had any conversation with him. I mean, it's, I don't have easy access like I used to. I know Governor Reynolds stays in touch with him, and I know personally he and Chris are doing well. But, I can't say I've had that opportunity to talk to him. The last time I talked to him was actually, I think it was at the Select USA thing, and he stopped by and we had a great chat then. So.
Good. All right,
so
Director.
You mentioned Select USA, and for those who aren't aware, Select USA, the Investment Summit, is a major annual event, typically in Washington, D.C., and the main focus is to attract foreign direct investment from vetted foreign investors that are recruited by U.S. embassies overseas. Fantastic event. Angela Reingans and I went together last year to represent the Clinton region, and Andy and I were planning to go this year. Of course, it's been canceled. It's been postponed until next year. But it does bring up the question about business attraction. And of course, Debbie, again, I shared our project list with you earlier. We are seeing activity still. Site selectors and companies are still looking for locations, and that's typically because they're on a 18-month to 36-month or more time frame when they would actually break ground and start doing something. So they're still on track for that. But for the state of Iowa, for IEDA, what's your take on business attraction for the year? Do you see any major events coming up maybe later in the year, or is it focused on 2021?
Yeah, as far as our big conferences, even abroad, I think there's still trade show we do in Europe in the fall that I have not officially canceled, and neither have they. But for most of those kind of organized big activities, those are canceled, and we are already beginning to play, and that includes governor trade missions planned for 2021. But as far as recruitment, I mean, and outreach and the things we do from a marketing perspective and the way we field leads, I mean, that is not stopping. Obviously, we'll continue that because, as you said, these are delayed. You're working through now what was already in the pipeline. We need to make sure there's continuous stuff coming into the pipeline. So we are continuing to be as active on that front as we always have been.
Okay, thank you very much. And I do want to say thank you to the Iowa Economic Development Authority. This year, they offered a really interesting marketing program to economic development organizations across the state. The CRDC applied to participate in that. And as a result, we're doing some joint marketing with the state of Iowa, with IEDA on U.S. News and World Report. So a lot of digital marketing going on still. So when it comes to business attraction, the CRDC understands the importance of keeping ourselves out there, even if we can't physically travel. So the co-op marketing plan with IEDA is extremely helpful. We get to do that at lesser cost than we normally would. And we're still doing print ads and other things so that we can make sure that the greater Clinton region is still on people's radar screen.
Yeah, I really do like the new co-op marketing plan we put out. It really obviously still enforcing the brand of Iowa, and this is Iowa, but yet able to be customized to the individuality of our region. So yeah, I was really pleased with when we rolled that out with a new design and focus this year.
Excellent. Andy, do you have any more questions that came in?
I do not.
Okay, well, I'll give one last chance. There is a chat box for those of you who aren't familiar with the setup. If you take your mouse and kind of move it along like the center of your screen or about three quarters of the way down, you'll have a toolbar pop up. And there's a chat box in there. You could send a question that way, or if you flag something to Andy, you can do it that way as well.
I've been getting texts, direct messages via social media. I'm just a social butterfly. What can I say?
Exactly.
All right.
All right. Well, if there aren't any others, obviously we want to thank Director Durham very much for her time today. Appreciate the insights and some of the new websites and information that we didn't have before. I want to thank all the people who are willing to speak today. Certainly appreciate that. And for the rest of you who are on the call today but didn't have a chance to speak, if anyone has questions afterwards, please send them to Andy Sokolovich or myself. We'll make sure we follow up and get you an answer. And Debbie, hope you have a fantastic weekend. And again, if you have any closing remarks, I'll stop there.
Well, let me just, I do want to have share with you a closing remark. And, our days have been so chaotic. And, even though I am extremely optimistic, I was having a really tough day one day because it's just, there's so much hitting us, right? There's just, everywhere we turn, it's just one sad story after another, or, more COVID cases, or, and so, wisdom comes to us several different ways. And so my younger brother called me, and I call my younger brother, Brian, the overachiever in our family. And he said, Debbie, I want to share something with you that a CEO shared, because, sometimes it's just, it's hard to see the path forward when there's just so much coming at you and there's so much anxiety. He said, we must all choose in our careers what role we will play. Will we play the weatherman who is paid to predict the future and often wrong? Or will we play the pilot whose job it is to land the plane no matter the weather conditions or other distractions are going on around them? So we, in this profession of economic development, Erin, you and your organization, what we're doing is we have to land the plane. And when we get to the time of reflection, I think we're going to learn that, yes, there are some things we could have probably done differently. But what I will tell you is this. I believe that we're going to see we got more things right than we got wrong. And we did everything we did with a sense of purpose. We did with a sense of urgency. And we did with a great amount of compassion.
That is perfect. Couldn't have said it better. So thank you so much for that.
All right. Well, you guys have a great weekend as well. And I can't wait till I can celebrate with you on one of your wonderful events or that is coming up in the future.
Okay. Andy, did you have something quickly or?
That's it. I was just going to close it out and say thank you,
Okay.
Durham. I will make this replay available on our website at clintondevelopment.com, also via our social media platforms. So be sure to check us out. Thank you so much, Debbie, for joining us.
Thank you to everyone.
great
Have a
day.
fantastic weekend.
All right. See ya. Enjoy your weekend.
Bye.